So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Night School's origin story. Basically, how I came up with the idea and what inspired a lot of it. And one thing I'm going to talk about is the books I was reading at the time, which helped me kind of like get the idea and perhaps the bravery to try my own book. So stick around, I will reveal all. So cast your minds back to 2010, 2009, if you can go back that far, which you may not be able to, but bear with me. I'm not sure when Twilight came out. Was it 2008? 2007? You guys will know. Anyway, Twilight happened, and it was this massive phenomenon. And of course, I refused to read it because I'm a grown-up, and no, I'm not going to read this book for children. I am too highfalutin for this child's book, and it just blew up. It became huge. Like, Twilight was everywhere. And I was like, I'm still not reading it. Okay, I'll read it. Like, that's pretty much how it went. And then I read Twilight, and to my own amazement, I kind of loved it. Like, don't at me. I get that it's problematic, and I know it has issues, and I get it. Book one is fun. And that's the one that like I just flew through it. Like, I don't remember it taking more than like a couple of days to read. Like, I started it and then I finished it. And there was this thing, and I thought, okay, well, that was fun. That was good. Why did I like that so much? What did I like? Like, it had been a long time since I simply devoured a book like that. And then I started thinking, like, why has it been a long time? Because when I was young, I would read 3 books a week, 4, maybe 5. Like, I read voraciously. I was almost an obsessive reader, and I could just lose myself completely in a book. Just open the book and forget everything else and just be in that book. But as a grown-up, I'd lost that. Like, somewhere between being 16 and whatever age I am now, which I will not reveal, I'd forgotten what that was like. And why had I forgotten it? Like, this is the thought process I went through. Join me on this mental path as I try to figure out why I don't love books as much as I used to. Like, this was sort of me. And it occurred to me that the books that adults are kind of told to read, so if we get our book recommendations from magazines and newspapers, the books they recommend are generally very serious. They're quite hard-going and just a bit boring. I'm gonna be honest, I'm sorry, but they're just a tiny bit boring. The books that the Guardian's like, oh, you must read this book about this woman's emotional journey from loneliness to absolute abject misery to death. And I'm like, must I? Do I really have to? Because frankly, I would rather just watch YouTube. And no, you must. This is so good. It's the best book of the year. It's a book, her realization that life is meaningless and that love is a lost hope, and that what she really, really needs is just to expand her mind and to read Ovid. Have you ever read Ovid? Because I've never read Ovid, but the Guardian really thinks we should be reading Ovid. I'm not reading Ovid. Anyway, like that I'd fallen for. And I'd read a lot of books, or at least I tried to read a lot of books. There was once this book by, it's a historian's book by this BBC presenter named Jonathan, whose name I won't use his last name. When I first moved here, it took me I think I read it for 4 months. Like, every night, I was determined to get to the end of this book, and it was so slow, it knocked me out. And I used to call it going to bed with Jonathan. It's like, going to bed with Jonathan! Like, it was so, I couldn't. And I'm sure most of you loved many of the big book of books of the last few years. You probably loved Wolf Hall. Like, I could not make it through a page. 1 page of Wolf Hall. It was like taking Valium. I was unconscious. And I'm not saying the writing isn't good. The writing is, I mean, obviously amazing. So much talent. But I just didn't know what was happening ever, because the last time I read it, I made it 1 paragraph and was unconscious. And then if you're reading a paragraph a night, it's like having short-term memory loss. Like, you never really get into the book. And frankly, why should you if it knocks you unconscious like a blow to the head? So that's what I'd been doing. And then I read Twilight, and I couldn't sleep. Like, I had to know what happened next. I had to understand the love story. I had to understand the background. I had to finish it. And that was because it was just a page turner. It was just a good page turner. It was a great yarn, told pretty darn well, with interesting characters. That was all there was to it. But it took me a while to figure that out. Then I read Hunger Games. Then I just went on this journey of young adult books, like, because I just decided to hell, if I may swear, with the books that the newspapers of the world and the magazines of the world and the grown-up of the world think we have to read. I want to read fun things. I want to read things that make the world disappear for a while. And I read everything, like every YA book. And in fact, I distinctly remember going to my local bookstore and going to the young adult section. It's a tiny little bookstore, and the young adult section is this tiny little section, and just buying like the top 10 books, like in this big, it was like my birthday, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy 10 books, I'm gonna read all of them. And among them, there were some good books and there were some truly terrible books. I mean, oh my God, the stuff that came out in 2009, holy crap. Some of it was brilliant, but I mean, honestly, there were a few books who shall not be named that I just like literally threw across the room. Asked my husband, I threw them saying this book should be burned. It's so bad, like this is so bad. But among the bad, some good. And good that just really changed things. So I'm gonna show you 3 of the books that after I read them, these specific books, I decided to write my own book. They were that inspiring to me at that time. So, Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I'm gonna look at the actual year and see when it came out because I can't remember. 2009, I'm telling you. I could tell you, I could put a pen and a map on the year that I decided to write a book. Okay, so this is an angel book. And as you know, if you've watched my previous videos, I'm not the biggest fan of angels. The wings, I can't get on with it. As soon as the wings appear, I'm like, no, I can't. Like, it just, no matter what's happening. Like, people could be being stabbed to death, and I'm like, wings. That's ridiculous. Anyway, but I really like this book. The main thing was just the character and the story and the world building were great, and I didn't care about the wings. And I mean, there are feathers all over this book, so I mean, I overcame all my prejudices. So I will tell you about it. If you haven't read it, you should. For Nora Gray, romance was never part of the plan, not until Patch came along. I also hated the name Patch. What the hell kind of name is that? Anyway, with his easy smile and eyes that seem to see inside her, Nora's drawn to him against her better judgment. But after a series of terrifying encounters, she isn't sure she can trust him. Patch seems to be everywhere she is, and to know more about her than her closest friends. And when she tries to seek answers, she discovers she's right in the middle of a centuries-old battle between the immortal and the fallen, and it's time to take sides. So Nora doesn't know she's an angel, but she's kind of an angel, or she's like an angel's instigator. I can't quite remember. But what I do remember is that I couldn't put it down. And even though his name was Patch, I believed him as an attractive, likable, romantic, like, possibility. And like, there was a lot in here that the dialogue was fun. It was just fun. It was fun. I love this book. And so I thought, okay, I really like that book. I did not yet want to write a book. And then I read this book, Fallen by Lauren Kate. I bet Kate's her middle name. Intrigue. And this also, well, I can't tell you. This is another paranormal book that has a mystery at its core. Not hugely dissimilar from Hush Hush. And, but okay, I'm just going to read you the description and you will figure out instantly what this inspired. I promise. Mysterious and aloof, Daniel captures Luce Price's attention from the moment she sees him on her first day at Sword and Cross boarding school. There's your him right there. Sword and Cross. He's the one bright spot in a place where cell phones are forbidden. The other students are screw-ups, and security cameras watch every move. Except Daniel wants nothing to do with Luce. He goes out of his way to make that very clear. But Luce can't ignore the feeling that she's being pulled to him, drawn like a moth to a flame. She must find out what Daniel is so desperate to hide, even if it kills her. Nicked little ideas. First of all, do you know who writes this stuff on the back? Not writers, just so you know. That is written by publishers, and we have no control over it at all, and ever so often we read it and just go, dear God, what have you written? And this is kind of one of those times, drawn like a moth to a flame. Guys, cliche much? But I loved this book. I really loved it. I loved the boarding school. It was awesome. There's bits that I think just really inspired me that I didn't know at the time. So like, the Luce is a bit of she's in trouble. The school is kind of for, I think she gets kicked out of school at the very beginning. And she's going to the school that's for basically kids who've been kicked out of school. It's reform school, basically, only it's private. So you see what I mean? Like, I didn't at the time, like, I'd forgotten about this book until planning for this video, and I read it and went, oh, bit thievy, Christi. Steely a bit plotty. So this one was quite influential, I think, subconsciously. I didn't mean to borrow various elements, but we just do. Like I always say, like, the world is a treasure chest with ideas in it, and writers dip in and take out, and sometimes we take the same idea. That's my excuse anyway. Now, that one did not make me want to write a book. This made me want to write a book, and I do not know why. This is Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead. I couldn't put my finger on what it is, but I still distinctly remember finishing it after like reading it for like a day. I mean, like, it takes no time. It's just such a page turner, just flies through it, and picking up a pen. And I don't know why. And also, I'll read you, if you haven't read this one, read this one. It's good. It's a first novel, and she gets better as she goes along. It's a little rough, it's a little rough at the beginning, but she finds her feet, and the characters are great. So Lisa is a mortal vampire. She must be protected at all times from the fiercest and most dangerous vampires of all, the ones who will never die. Rose Hathaway is Lisa's best friend and her bodyguard. Now, after 2 years of illicit freedom, they've been dragged back inside the iron gates of St. Vladimir's Academy. The girls must survive a world of forbidden romances, a ruthless social scene, and terrifying nighttime rituals. It was really fun. Like, I greatly enjoyed it. I mean, it's flawed. But it's what it really is. The thing that I love about it is about friendship. It's about Rose and Lisa, and there is romance in it. There is attraction, and there's guys in it, and other kinds of romantic love. But it's mostly about friendship. Friends fighting together, friends working to overcome things together, friends who will die for each other. And I think that is what made me want to write Night School. I wanted to write about that, about a group of friends overcoming, like, everything together, being willing to risk together everything, death, basically, the worst that could possibly happen for each other. Like, that friendship love, if you think about it, that's at the heart of Night School. I have this memory of being on a train. Like, how did it start? So those books inspired it, but what really made me write it, I think, was the idea. Well, here's the thing. When you read a book, if it's a good book, you can finish it in a day. You just devour it in a day and it's done. When you write a book, it's half a year of your life that you spend in that world. And when I started writing Night School, it gave me the opportunity to spend 6 months at Cimmeria Academy. Anytime I was bored, anytime I was lonely, anytime I had a break and nothing to do, I could pick up a pen and in an instant I was at Cimmeria. I was surrounded by these characters I created who I loved. And that was the greatest blessing, I think, of writing. I've discovered I could write this book. When I started writing it, it became my escape. And fiction has a lot wrong with it. Like, from the money to the callousness of the industry to one-star reviews to Goodreads and grouchiness and writers cannibalizing each other for no reason and just vindictive complaints about this or that and bitchiness. But that doesn't matter when I get to spend, if I pick up a pen, 6 months with my best imaginary friends in my favorite imaginary place. Anytime I want, even now, when I've not been writing Night School books, I can pick up a pen and go there. And there's Lasney, and there's Allie, and there's Isabel. And I'm in that world again. It's the ultimate escape. So discovering that on crowded trains on my way to work, discovering that I had the capacity to lose myself in my imagination like that, that was a gift that these books gave me, because I don't think I would have tried. I don't think I would have had the bravery to try if I hadn't read these guys and been inspired to want to create my own world. Not hugely dissimilar, but still very unique to the worlds that these writers created. So that's how it began. I read the right books, and then suddenly I wanted to write a book of my own. So that was the beginning. And Night School, as first drafted, like these, was paranormal. So it was vampires and witches. And I'm going to do a video very soon, which I hope you'll watch, of reading a chapter from it. Because I've never gone back to that book. I haven't read that book, God, in 6 years. Like the original draft with the vampires and the witches and the thing that everybody said, we love this, we couldn't possibly publish this. Like, that draft before I changed it into what it became, which I really love. But I feel like it would be so fun to read it to you. And then you could also like see and compare paranormal versus non-paranormal. Because I know I did a video talking about that like a few weeks ago, and I said it was originally paranormal, which would you like? And everybody's like, definitely not paranormal. But you hadn't read it yet. So who knows? What if I read it to you and you like it more? That would be terrible. I really hope that doesn't happen. But it could happen. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm going to read a chapter of that coming soon, and you will know then if you've looked at these. I think maybe you'll see the influence more. So let's wait and see. So what I'm going to do, because these books inspired me and I want them to inspire you, I'm going to give these to one reader who comments below. I will choose you, and I want you to write in the comments. You can write anything you want, obviously, because it's your world. These are your fingers. You type whatever you want to, you guys. But also, tell me what book inspired you the most, especially a young adult book if possible. Did you read a young adult book and think, you know, I want to read more books like this, or I want to write a book like this, or I want to live inside this book? What book would that be? So write it in your comments. I'm going to read them all, and then I will choose my favorite, or the one that, I don't know, if they're all too perfect, which is usually the case, I may just have to close my eyes and point because you're all perfect. It's really hard to choose. But I will pick one to win all 3 of these books. I will send them anywhere in the world. And then you can hopefully be inspired by them too. I hope so, because they are fun to read. And it's been so fun talking about them again after this time and talking to you guys. Thanks for sticking around. I'm so grateful. Comments below, subscribe so that you're sure to be the first to see my chapter reading of Night School: The Vampire Story, and hang out. Let's chill. Bye.